Hi, Larry Berman here, and here's what's on my radar this week. Has to be the Fed meeting front and center, the beginning of tapering for the Fed. We got an abrupt end to tapering from the Bank of Canada this week. That sent ripples through the bond market. We're seeing bond yields spike around the planet when QE has been stopped from Australian Central Bank, for example. Massive spike up in short end rates. So, we think in the next couple of months as the Fed goes through this experiment of pulling back, remember, they're still buying a tremendous amount of debt. Make no mistake about that. But as they pull back, or if they're more aggressive than the market is ready for, we could get an interest rate market shock that could ripple through a lot of different asset prices. So that's clearly on the front burner this week. What's secondary but really important is we think COP26. For all intents and purposes, there's a lot of chatter that goes on that means nothing. We do believe the world is very, very serious about climate change. We think the real push is going to come from the ESG side and more from corporates saying, hey, we want to be good citizens. Governments, for the most part, have their hands tied in a big way, and we can see this coming out of the Democratic Party in the US trying to get a big human infrastructure bill passed, which includes all kinds of green spending, and they're just having difficulty doing this and getting things passed. From the promise in Paris in 2015 to see the US pull out of the Paris Agreement that was done at that COP, I think it was COP 20 meeting, to this weekend's meeting in Glasgow, a lot of promises will be made. There'll be a lot of handshaking, a lot of picture taking, but at the end of the day, not sure the emerging world is going to be able to execute, and whether the developed world is willing to pay for that cost of it. So it's a big challenge from that perspective. What else is going on? Obviously, more regulatory stuff in China. Emerging markets have been underperforming. Brazil, again, we think Brazil is on fire right now, literally, in so many different areas, making their asset markets incredibly cheap. And we keep nibbling away at Brazil in terms of exposure in our portfolios where we think there's good value in everything from your local supermarket to your banks. Tremendous value. Petrobras has got to be one of the cheapest energy companies on the planet these days, given where oil prices are, and probably likely to stay well through next year, despite what happens at COP26. So, there are places to invest here. There are pockets of value. And that's where we continue to look in our portfolios, as opposed to the, I would say, very expensive US markets at this point, where we're starting to see some cracks. Quarter on quarter earnings growth has been modest at best. Year over year, it looks fantastic. But companies still very optimistic on what they can deliver. But from a valuation perspective, the US is just so expensive here. Put protection is probably one of the best things you can do in your portfolio, looking out into year end at this point, and expect some pockets of volatility could begin with the Fed meeting this week. So on our bull and bear pick of the weeks, it's really focus where there's value. Emerging markets is still an area that we find very attractive. Hasn't worked for months. The values keep getting better, and I think from our perspective, you want to look beyond the noise of the day and the headline, and think a bit strategically, and we think the value's there and will be realized in the coming years. So emerging markets, Brazil in particular, China in particular, look particularly attractive right now. And on the upside, large cap US tech, that remains very overvalued, and if interest rates are going to get stressed, and we think they are for the next couple of quarters higher around the world, then large cap tech should see some continued flatness to lower in terms of prices. And for those of you who caught our webinar this week with one of our favorite friends and guests, David Rosie Rosenberg, and we've discussed with David, and he's willing to give out a free trial for all Berman's Call YouTube subscribers. So if you are interested in a free month subscription to what I think is some of the best forensic economic research out there, I encourage you to follow the link below and sign up for a free month trial of Rosie's Breakfast with Dave. Have a good one, everyone.